8. Mia Khalifa. Mia Khalifa exploded onto the adult film scene back in 2014 and quickly landed a place among the industry's top stars. She quit a few years later though, despite her immense popularity, and pursued a career as a social media influencer and fully clothed model. Since then, Mia has blasted the erotic industry as excessively manipulative and predatory. During an interview with BBC's Hard Talk show in 2019, she revealed that she started her career as an adult performer after getting recruited on the street. She also said that she received many messages from young women who could relate to her experience and felt like they'd ruined their lives after being convinced to do the job. Mia claimed that the men who run things mislead female performers with flattering offers for simple modeling jobs and take advantage of them by using contract jargon most people wouldn't understand. And she said the money isn't even all it's cracked up to be. In a tweet, Mia wrote that she only made about $12,000 from her pornography work, despite people thinking she was raking in millions due to her quick rise to fame. 7. Melina Roberge. In 2016, a young woman from Quebec named Melina Roberge was invited to go on a 7-week intercontinental cruise with her sugar daddy and a few of his friends. The only catch, she had to help him smuggle a large amount of cocaine. It was enough to put her away for years if she got caught with it. Roberge's worst nightmare came true when police dogs searched the ship during a routine stop in Australia and found 35 kilograms of the drug in the cabin she shared with another woman named Isabelle Lagache. They found 60 kilograms in Melina's alleged sugar daddy, 65-year-old Andre Tamin's room. Between these stashes, which had an estimated value of nearly $16 million, it was a record amount for attempted cocaine smuggled in luggage through an Australian seaport. Roberge, Lagache and Tamin were charged in connection to the drug haul. She pleaded guilty and received a smaller 7.5-year sentence. Tamin also pled guilty to a smuggling charge and was given 8 years. Throughout the court process, Roberge insisted that Tamin had coaxed her into carrying the drugs. She claimed that the only thing she did wrong was take advantage of the travel opportunity and post selfies on social media. She said that her only job in the smuggling was to pose as a vacationer. To avoid going to trial, the young woman pleaded guilty. She tearfully told the court that during her time in holding, she met women who struggled with addiction and understood how her crime wasn't entirely harmless. Roberge said she doesn't want to be that kind of person and seemed genuinely remorseful for her actions. 6. Jennifer Lynn Faith. When she grew tired of her marriage to American Airlines executive James Faith, Jennifer Lynn Faith had an affair with Darren Ruben Lopez, an Army veteran with a traumatic brain injury. Through a series of emails, Faith told Lopez disturbing stories about the alleged abuse she suffered from her husband James. She played on Darren's desire to protect her by convincing him there was only one way to stop Mr. Faith. She even sent extra emails posing as a friend to increase pressure on Lopez. James Faith was later shot to death in 2020 while he and Jennifer were walking their dog together. Jennifer really played up the role of a grieving widow for the media, claiming she wanted justice for her husband and urging anyone with information to come forward and help. Meanwhile, a crowdfunding campaign for the family collected almost $58,000. But instead of putting it toward bills and expenses, Jennifer used a majority of the money to pay off credit cards she'd used to buy Lopez a big screen TV and other gifts. In early 2021, after a months-long investigation, authorities charged Jennifer and Lopez in connection to James Faith's murder. She pleaded guilty to murder for hire and was sentenced to life in federal prison, while Lopez is currently awaiting trial. 5. Hendrikus Cornelis de Sendre. In 2014, a Dutch man in his 20s named Hendrikus Cornelis de Sendre started an online relationship with a younger Wisconsin girl. At some point, she tried to break up with her long-distance lover, whom she'd never actually met in person. Instead of moving on, though, de Sendre became overly obsessed and more determined to make her be with him. When the ex refused to communicate with him online in chat messages, he traveled from the Netherlands all the way to the small city of Fond du Lac, where he stopped at her mother's workplace and announced his love for her daughter. Descendre then took photos of the teenage girl's house, school, and a nearby park, and posted the images to social media. Police issued multiple warnings that day after getting complaints from the victim, but Descendre ignored them and sent chocolates and flowers the very next day. When the girl kept refusing his advances, he created online profiles faking her identity and leaving incriminating comments, damaging her reputation to the point where she considered changing her name entirely. The teen and her mother were so rattled by Descendre's behavior that they fled their home and stayed somewhere else out of fear for their safety. Authorities took Descendre into custody on multiple charges, including felony stalking. His lawyer chalked the situation up to a simple cultural misunderstanding, but Descendre still pleaded no contest and was convicted of the stalking charge. He was then deported to the Netherlands after serving a 184-day jail sentence and is banned from ever returning to the US. 4. Travis Hidson. Just days before he was scheduled to sail out to sea in 1992, US Navy sailor Conway Utterbeck traveled from his base in Pensacola, Florida, to Georgia with another sailor named Travis Hidson and their direct superior, Petty Officer Edward Vollmer. Utterbeck thought they were just going to hang out at the officer's family home for the weekend, but he never came back from the trip. The Navy initially thought Utterbeck was AWOL, which isn't that uncommon, especially when a ship's about to sail out, but his family insisted he would never abandon his military post. Authorities eventually started to treat his disappearance as a missing persons case. Hidson and Vollmer told investigators that Utterbeck returned to Florida with them and that they dropped him off at a bar and never saw him again. But when Utterbeck's dismembered torso was found in a Georgia forest, it became clear that that wasn't the case. Interrogators turned up the heat on the suspects, and Hidson eventually admitted to shooting Utterbeck in the head. He led authorities to the rest of the young man's remains. Detectives learned Vollmer had told Hidson that Utterbeck had a hit list with both their names on it, and that he had to die, which was later deemed untrue. As someone who loyally followed orders from his superiors, Hidson did what he was told. He also felt pressured into going along with the plan, since he'd experienced unwarranted punishment from Vollmer on their ship and was very afraid of him. Hidson was incredibly remorseful for killing Utterbeck, but the court was unsympathetic. He was given the death penalty and was executed in 2016. Vollmer received a life sentence without parole. Investigators were glad that justice was served, but were disappointed that Vollmer's life was spared despite him being the mastermind behind the diabolical plan. 3. Antoinetta McCoy. Antoinetta McCoy was devastated when she found out she couldn't have children. But she at least found love, or so she thought, after reconnecting with her former high school classmate Peter Moses in 2010. She started traveling from her home in Washington, D.C. to visit Moses in North Carolina, where he lived with an unusual number of women and children. Moses told McCoy they were all just relatives he took in when they all fell on hard times, and Antoinetta was touched by his generosity. In fact, it was one of the reasons she said yes to marrying him, along with what she thought were their shared, strict Christian values. Soon after the proposal, Moses' behavior changed. He became controlling and physically abusive, and Antoinetta realized the women who lived with him were his wives, not extended family members. Moses made the women address him as "my lord," and he was extremely militant with the kids. He was particularly abusive toward one little boy, who was one of his wife's children from a previous relationship. Antoinetta formed a bond with the boy and became his sworn protector. When she returned home from a trip to DC one day, the boy was missing. Suddenly, McCoy realized the gravity of what she was involved in. Her diary entries later showed that she had started to suspect she was in a cult that abused and controlled women with religion. But walking away wasn't an easy or simple choice, especially since she had come to think of the little boy as her son. After realizing something terrible must have happened to him, Antoinetta tried to run out of the house, but she was beaten and shot by other cult members. It was revealed in court that Moses wanted McCoy dead after learning she couldn't have his children. Moses was given 2 life sentences, while his 4 co-conspirators received sentences ranging from 6 to 30 years. 2. Alma Rosa Tenorio. In 2018, 52-year-old Alma Rosa Tenorio's husband, Leo Tenorio, invited her on a cruise to try and fix their crumbling marriage. Before the trip, the couple's adult children, Timothy Tenorio and Andrea Smith, noticed that their mum was acting very strange. Andrea later told ABC News that Alma Rosa didn't want to go on the cruise and that she knew something bad was going to happen. Timothy echoed his sister's feelings, saying that his mum gave him an extra long hug before leaving and made a chilling comment about how it might be the last hug he ever got from her. Alma Rosa went on the trip, despite her many concerns and gut feelings. Lo and behold, she plunged off a balcony to her death during the cruise. The tragedy happened in the early morning when witnesses allegedly saw a muscular man choke the woman and push her off the balcony during an argument. She landed on a lifeboat below and died. Hours earlier, fellow passengers had seen the Tenorios arguing in the ship's casino, but the people who claimed to have witnessed the victim being pushed to her death were unable to identify the suspect since they were too far away to get a detailed look at him. Leo Tenorio was questioned but released and never faced charges. At the time the news broke, both the FBI and Aruban authorities were investigating the case, and Alma Rosa's death had been classified as unnatural. The story seems to end there, leaving one to wonder what really happened during that cruise, and how did Alma Rosa know something was wrong? 1. Molly Watson. While working at a Missouri prison in 2011, 28-year-old Molly Watson dated fellow corrections officer James Addy. She believed her older partner was in the process of getting a divorce and trusted he was seeing it through. Watson fell head over heels for Addy, and her love for him only grew greater over the next 7 years while they carried out what seemed to be a healthy relationship. In 2018, though, Molly was finally ready to take things to the next level. She asked Addy to marry her, and he said yes. He encouraged her to make wedding plans, even though he was hiding a dark secret. Addy had a double life. He never divorced his first wife like he told Molly at all, and never had any plans to do so. His wife, Melanie, was completely unaware that he was cheating too, let alone engaged to another woman. Molly set a date, bought a dress, and was less than 2 days away from the ceremony when she turned up dead on the side of a rural road with a gunshot wound to the head. After learning about Addy's double life, investigators moved him to the top of their suspect list. They soon uncovered enough evidence to charge him with the death. Melanie was stunned to learn about her husband's affair. She later told ABC News that he was very good at hiding it. The couple occasionally argued about him coming home late from work, but she never could have imagined he was living out an entire other relationship. And while it may have seemed odd that James went on vacations without Melanie, she believed him when he said he was just with friends from work. After Addy's arrest, Melanie went through his belongings and found a photo album from one of the trips. It became crystal clear that he'd been cheating right under her nose for years. She divorced James and refused to support his claims of innocence in Molly's murder case. Addy was finally convicted of first-degree murder in 2021 and sentenced to life in prison plus 10 years with no possibility of parole. He appealed his conviction and asked for it to be overturned, challenging the reliability of the tire track evidence presented during his trial. But the court upheld the ruling. Thanks for watching. Would you rather find out your boyfriend of 10 years had an elaborate affair or discover that your dad had a secret family? Let us know in the comments below and don't forget to subscribe. See you next time. Bye.